What's up guys, I'm Caden with Crypto Now or Never and welcome back to an overall market update. If you enjoy this style of content, please do me a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. As always, none of this is financial advice. Let's get into it.
I have a dream, that's all I need. I'll make it happen with some work and belief. Know what I want.
Alright, now I just kind of wanted to give my opinion on the market today because a lot has happened over the last 2 or 3 weeks. So in my last market update, we hadn't even had the breakout yet. Ethereum was still trading around 1700. And I'll go over technical analysis here in just a second, but I was basically talking about how we were extremely oversold and there were many indicators that were lining up for a potential move. One of the biggest ones was the idea that M2 global liquidity was breaking out, which I'll also go over in just a second. But regardless, we have now had the massive explosion. And there has just been a lot of news recently that you could consider very bullish for crypto. 1 hour ago, US core PPI falls to 2.4%. We've also seen President Trump say a lot of bullish things about crypto recently. May 14th, we're leading China in crypto. And then he said, I'm a big crypto fan. And then on May 13th, we learned that US inflation falls to 2.3%, lower than expectations. And a lot of the data that we're seeing right now could suggest future rate cuts. And you could argue what's even more important is that eventually quantitative tightening is going to end. And then in my opinion, this was very bullish news on May 12th. Coinbase joins the S&P 500. This means that now a lot of people who are investing in the S&P 500 are also technically investing in crypto. But I could go on and on about the bullish news recently. Regardless, it doesn't change the fact that crypto has had a very strong breakout. And if you now look at the crypto fear and greed index, we are back up to 70, which is greedy. It was only a little bit over 2 months ago that the crypto fear and greed index was all the way down at 10, extreme fear. Now, I'm going to start off by going over Bitcoin just because I still can't fathom how everyone was super fearful. So if you guys were watching my last market updates, basically I was saying I was very bullish on Bitcoin because we had a textbook support and resistance flip. Previous resistance now becomes support. You can see price action basically came down and bounced off of the previous high. This confirmed to us that we were still on a macro uptrend. So honestly, being bearish at these times didn't make sense. But if you look at the stochastics, they were extremely oversold and now they're pushing up hard. Same with the RSI. The other indicator that I've been pointing out constantly though is the M2 global liquidity. So the M2 global liquidity is very important because it oftentimes front runs breakouts. So you can see M2 global liquidity is breaking out. Bitcoin breaks out afterwards. M2 global liquidity breaking out. Bitcoin breaks out afterwards. M2 global liquidity breaking out. Bitcoin explodes right after that. And M2 global liquidity has been exploding since January. And the fact that it's put in a higher high suggests that there's a very good chance that crypto also puts in a higher high. I will say right now, you could argue that Bitcoin has actually put in a triple top. If we cannot clear this resistance, then this is obviously a very bearish pattern. I want to be crystal clear about that. So it's very important that we do break above these levels. However, based on M2 global liquidity, I would personally be shocked if we do not put in new all-time highs. I just want to make sure I get that point across the board. Now, is that guaranteed? Absolutely not. But based on what we've seen throughout the history of Bitcoin, it would make perfect sense if we do put in higher highs, especially given the fact that we clearly put in a higher low. So the macro uptrend is absolutely intact. But at the end of the day, only time will tell. Now, what I think is probably even more important than Bitcoin right now is Ethereum. And the reason I think Ethereum is more important is because pretty much everyone watching this video trades altcoins. And the reality of Ethereum is that it is the leading altcoin. So this is actually Ethereum on the daily time frame rather than the weekly. And the reason I'm starting off with the daily is because we had a clear rejection off of a major level. If you guys have been watching my content, I've been talking about how the 200-day is very important. And you can see we basically came up here and we had tweezer tops off of this level. You literally could not get a more obvious rejection. Now, does this mean that we can't eventually get back above this level? No, it does not. But don't be shocked if we do see Ethereum continue filling out some sort of a bull flag. And while this bull flag fills out, ideally the stochastics would start to reset and then potentially price action could come down here and get a bounce off of one of these support levels. Maybe we'll see the 21-day continue creeping up and then price action gets a bounce off of the 21-day. Regardless though, it doesn't change the fact that Ethereum looks significantly better than it did 3 weeks ago. This has been a very strong move. However, the 200-day is a very important level. We need to get back above this. When you look at the weekly time frame, you can see that we have gotten back above key levels. The weekly did get back above the 200 weekly and the 21 weekly. So this was a very bullish sign. I'm telling you right now, because we got back above these levels, in my opinion, the 200 daily is the most important level right now. If we clear this and we can actually stay above this and then we see some sort of a bullish retest, then that would be very bullish for Ethereum. And that's probably the most important thing. We want to see a bullish retest. That would mean price action to break above this level and then come back down and bounce off of it as a support level. Kind of like what we saw with Bitcoin. It didn't bounce off of a level, but it came down here and bounced off of previous resistance. So that's kind of what I'm seeing from a technical analysis standpoint. But what I really like to see is on CoinMarketCap, you can see Bitcoin dominance is actually starting to drop. It's down to 61.9%. And this is very important because when you come down here, you can see in the last week, Bitcoin's only up 2.7%. Ethereum is up 27.7%. In order for us to have an altcoin season, we need to see Ethereum start significantly outperforming Bitcoin. Now, the reality is, even with Ethereum having this strong breakout, it is still significantly underperforming Bitcoin. Yes, over the last couple of weeks, it's been outperforming it, but not overall. Just to show you guys what I'm talking about, if you look at Bitcoin, you can see that Bitcoin is down 6% from its all-time high. If you look at Ethereum right now, you can see that Ethereum is still down 48% from its all-time high. This right here tells us that Ethereum still has a long ways to go. But regardless, this has been an excellent start. But that's pretty much the update for today. If you guys are interested in joining a like-minded community and getting into projects super early, then I also recommend taking a look at my Discord. As a lot of you guys know, we've nailed 6 different 200x projects. But just over the last 2 weeks, we've also nailed another 2 100x projects. So if this is the kind of community that you'd like to be a part of, you can find the link right here on my YouTube homepage. I'd love to see you guys in here. But that's about all. Let me know down in the comments, how are you guys feeling about the market? If you found this content valuable, please do me a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great rest of your day.